What's up YouTube, Gentry 101 back with another video. I'm sure you could tell from that little short that the engine mounts on this M156 or CLS63 AMG are gone. They're completely collapsed, and the engine kind of moves around when you're putting it from, you know, park reverse drive. You can feel that vibration at idle. So what we're gonna do is get under here, get the vehicle all jacked up and start kind of trying to address where we need to go with this, because I don't know if you can tell or not, but you can't see thing at all. Gotta love German engineering. Let's shove a big huge V8 and not make any room for, you know, a maintenance item. Whenever you have a hydraulically filled mount and you have all this torque plus this weight sitting on there, guess what? It's gonna collapse, it's gonna leak out, it's gonna fail. I've seen people, you know, or seen and heard people recommend replacing these every 50,000 miles. So let's go ahead and see what we can do to shortcut this job. So I think the easiest thing, hoping the easiest thing is going to be is to take this steering rack out, which, this is why you wear safety glasses, something just blew in my mind. Take the steering rack out. I got the fan blowing right in my face, this doesn't help. And the steering rack's actually on this chassis support brace. So this is held in by 18mm bolt and a 18mm nut sitting on top. And do the same thing for on this side, however the hell. I'm gonna get my hand up here. Like so. Yeah, I don't want any copyright issues, so if you guys hear that in the background, that is Ed Milet. Ed Milet is a great motivational speaker, businessman, coach, just overall great guy, so you guys should check him out. I'm not sponsored by him, and again, I'm not trying to copyright any of his stuff. It is playing on Spotify, so please do not, you know, hurt me in any kind of way. But I have this rack out of the way, and you can actually see the engine mount now. So it is just going to be held in by a 13mm, and then way up top there is a 16mm, which I highly doubt you're going to be able to see, but you can, you know, kind of get the gist. I'll have to stake my hand up in there and see if I can get that 16 free, be able to jack up this engine, you know, get some block of wood under here, maybe at the pan. That'll give me the lowest point for my jack to actually have to be able to lift up. That way I won't have to get like 2 or 3 pieces of wood and have some sketchy crap going on from there. May have to remove those look like E12s, could be E10s. I haven't even tried to put a socket on there to determine that, but they do look like E12s. So I may have to get those off of there. I don't know if I'll be able to jack this engine up enough to actually be able to slide this mount out. But again, I mean, you can see how just from removing this rack, how much visible space I have now. Again, I don't know that this is going to be correct. You know, briefly looking through the e-manual that you can get off of emanuals.com, it says that you have to jack the engine from one side, drop the exhaust, potentially remove the AC compressor if I remember, and the alternator. And honestly, I mean, this looks like this is going to work. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed, this looks like this is going to work. So I'm going to continue to fidget on this right off the bat. You should be able to see the height difference there. And this one looks a little more compressed than this. Okay, let's put them up like that. Now you can really see the difference. And so, again, here's another great, you know, demonstration of how this is bad, depressed. See, it's all, you know, squished in. Trying to do what I can to shortcut this. Shortcut this the best that I can. This is going to be a solid pain in the butt to get this top bolt even aligned back in this engine mount. So that's gonna be interesting. Again, Ed Milet's still going off in the background here. So again, financial services and all you great people out there, you know, please don't try and not let me monetize or whatever YouTube's terms is for this. You know, I need some motivational speaking in my life right now to get me through this. All right, so I've got the bolt out, and what I've done is kind of just push the heat shield off to the side. And now I'm gonna try and, because apparently this jack is bleeding down big time. I'm gonna slide this jack, put these pine 1x1s, 2x2s, whatever they're actually. I mean, it's an inch by an inch. I don't know why they're called 2x2s, but anyway, put those 2 pine blocks right there, get this lifted up so we can see just how bad it is. And really, even if this engine mount will be able to come out of this tight space. So I'm gonna go through and get that done now. Well, that sure was a fun struggle, and I'm still not even there all the way. I got to replace the transmission mount and get the steering rack and the actual steering arm back on there, and that 13mm bolt put back on. But here are both compressed mounts. Maybe. Yeah, they both are. I don't really see any signs of like fluid leaking out on this one, but here you can see where, you know, it had come out through the top. So hopefully this is going to get rid of the at idle, well, I know it is actually, not hopefully, get rid of the at idle vibration as well as like the random clunks that we're getting. And these are the mounts for them. So this is 26969, and holy crap, I hope they're the same part number. Now that I look at this, okay, God, thank you, Jesus. Scared the shit out of myself for a second. So what I did is I pulled this part number off of the Black Series, which is supposed to be a solid rubber actual mount, so they should last longer. They looked completely different. You know, the ones that I put on there were aluminum all the way up to here, whereas, you know, this may just be a rubber sleeve, but it's going down to here. Outside of that, I couldn't really tell any difference between them. I mean, they weren't compressed. They're sitting about that much higher. So yeah, I'm gonna try and finagle this steering rack back in here without busting a finger or slipping out any curse words. Okay, so engine mounts and steering rack are back in place. That metal splash pan is back in place and torqued down. The steering shaft is going back up to the steering wheel. One thing I did forget to mention is make sure that you tie down or secure the actual steering wheel. What I did was took some, I had some like braid laying around, so I literally just tied that down to the brake pedal, another one up to the shifter column itself. So I'm gonna get underneath the vehicle right now to replace the transmission mount since I'm under here, and then we'll do a video up top of starting it, park reverse drive with foot on the brake and tapping the accelerator to, you know, 1500, I don't want to go up to 2000 RPM, but 1500 RPM. Make sure that engine's not jumping around like it was before. Well, welcome back. I'm sure you saw from that video, the engine is barely moving, whereas before, you know, and I was barely giving it any kind of gas before I did the mounts. I was only going about 1500 RPM. You could kind of see that thing jumping around. On that last one, after replacement, I did bump it up to around 2300 RPM. You can just see it kind of torque. I literally just said torque over. It was, you know, a tight job all in all between recording and doing the actual repairs. I started at 4 o'clock my time. It is currently 7:10. So 3 hours all in all between not ever doing this before, trying to game plan and do some shortcuts, which honestly I have to recommend. If you are going to be doing this, I would follow the steps. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to work for you. You might get hurt, you might break something, so don't try and like put your liabilities on me. But if you're going to be doing this at home, don't have access to a lift, that was the easiest way in my opinion. And again, some basic tools are all that was really needed. The pick I used really was just to guide the two arms together that connect the steering wheel to the actual steering rack. There's a little guide hole that fits into. You could use like a pocket screwdriver, or, you know, something that is about that diameter, and go in there, because it's going to move around as you try to slide that arm on, and those two will actually slide together really easy. It was a 13mm bolt that then connected that, so used a 13, needed a 16 and 18. These are the two extensions I used, ratchets. This is just a, you know, wobble head 10mm, and the only 10mm really that we had to pull off were for the power steering line that mount up to the vehicle. And then again, here's our 16 and 18, and I'm lucky enough to have these ratcheting and flex heads as well as here, which you could also just get away, you know, if you only have some regular wrenches or ratchets, you know, you could always make do with that. Always seem to be wearing the same stinking shirt when I do these videos. I promise I have more than just this one shirt. It's just, you know, you can see over time between fishing and working on cars, I mean, this thing's ruined, so why in the world would I use another one? I'm definitely excited to get this thing out on the road, do another road trip once all this COVID-19 stuff stops. Miss going to San Antonio and Houston and checking everything out, as well as just, I mean, going out to wineries. So, you know, a little bit of peace of mind now, you know, after we did the cylinder head work and cams and lifters. Make sure you check that video out, by the way. After starting up, I felt, you know, a constant vibration at idle, and it always bothered me, it always freaked me out. And then I, you know, out of nowhere, I was like, hey, let me test the engine mounts. So, you know, a few months back, I tested the engine mounts. This is what I found out, and here we are a couple months later. So these are supposed to be a, you know, Black Series equivalent. So they should hopefully last more than, you know, a couple years, 50,000 miles. Fingers crossed here. Coming up in these next videos, I'm going to be doing some maintenance work on the BMW 135i. So make sure you stay tuned.